It's been 9 years since I've been a part of this surf life. And in that 9 years, the spiritual aspects of being in the water, the lifestyle, and then community. But one person in particular that really created a movement, and that was Dedon Kamathi, the revolutionary.
An avid shredder, instructor, soul surfer, journalist, community organizer, member of the All African People's Revolutionary Party, and Black Panther.
Dedon was one of those brothers you met in the surf world that was just very welcoming. He was the first person that would probably say hi to you.
He was the first person that I met in Black Surfers Collective and started the Pan-African Beach Days.
You know, and their children, they pass them to me all the time. They teach them how to surf. We have surf camp in the summertime. We take brothers and sisters from the hood, young ones as well as women that are 40 years old weighing 350. Big, heavy-set women. They all had a fantasy, they always want to surf. And they got the heart. And we teach them how to surf. Always, when I come out of that water, I'm buzzed, I'm high. I'm electric. I sleep so much better, you know, than after a surf session. When I'm paddling out, it's like I'm going into another world, a world that's devoid of racism and sexism and classism. A world which is me and Mother Earth. I guess being raised Catholic, I rejected Catholicism, but I have a sense of spirituality. It's kind of more toward the Rastafari, kind of more towards traditional African religions. And a lot of it has to do with positing nature and Mother Earth as the God force, as a universal force. And you live in an asphalt concrete jungle like the jungle where I live in, headquarters of the Bloods. All we see is concrete, asphalt, sirens, ghetto bird, helicopters, you know, just a lot of stress and tension in this environment. But when I paddle out and the wave breaks over my head, the first break is like being rebaptized back into my true nature as a human being, as part of Mother Earth, and not just socially constructed. I'm black and therefore I'm evil, I'm negative, I'm ugly, I'm a thug, I'm overly sex, I'm ignorant, all I can do is beat on the drum and run track and shoot a ball. And those stereotypes that are forced upon us, that's all we can do is just be what the media and what America has defined us as. When that water breaks over my head with the first wave paddling through the wave, it's like I'm rechristened back into my natural self, which means all things are possible.
Dedon was that revolutionary that a lot of people know all over the world. And like if you go to any black community in the Southwest West Los Angeles area and you mention surfing, black surfing, the first person that will come up for anybody is, did you know Dedon?
The question is, I live in an area called the Jungle in South Central Los Angeles, and how does the community relate to me? I've lived in that area for about 10 years, about 11 years now, and a lot of brothers just know me, and they kind of like, right on, brother, right on. A lot of the young brothers and sisters, I have a 15-year-old daughter, I have two daughters, one 25, one 15. My 15-year-old, when she was much younger, every time I go surfing, I load up the car with all the kids, my RV, my van, whatever. And they would go to the beach and we all play in the water and someone would try to surf, but I would always take them to the beach for years. So those kids now are the Bloods of today. So my daughter's now 15, the typical Blood, Crip gangster around this town is about anywhere from 13 to about 21 typically. So they don't look at surfing as a white boy sport because they was raised around me. We'd have beach parties. They know that I'm down with the hood, they know I'm down with the movement, so it's not like I'm a brother that's trying to be white, that rejects black women, black culture, that's ashamed of myself. They know I'm totally committed to my people, that I'm a surfer. Plus, I've been propagandizing the fact that we were the first surfers. I talk about Dockweiler Beach and Queen. I do a lot of education. Driving into Watson, Compton, or even I'll be driving into Beverly Hills or in San Fernando Valley or Encino or Simi Valley, and I always carry a board on my car. So I'm kind of one of the spontaneous guys. When it's time to go surfing, I don't have to drive back to my pad, put my board on my car and go surfing. So on my car, wherever I'm at, I can go straight to the waves. So people ask me all the time, you're black and you surf? So I go on my little, Malcolm X soapbox and talk about the origins of surfing, who the first surfers were, how surfing got introduced in the United States around 1910, 1912, to Dockweiler Beach, who's the world's fastest swimmer, who also surfed, And he came on a tour in the United States and showed people in Malibu and Virginia Beach surfing for the first time. So I go through my little soapbox explaining what surfing is all about.
And with the inundation of, you know, people trying to fit into a Eurocentric standard and talk a certain way, Dedon Kamathi was on the other side of the spectrum. He was a Pan-Africanist.
Surfers to follow the white, blonde, blue-white stereotype, break this and hey, no, you know, that's cool, but we also have our own identity, our own reality as black surfers, and we don't have to parrot the language and even the boards. You know, we have 3 black surfboard companies, the black shapers, black owners of the company, you know. So, you know, basically trying to break the paradigm from a white paradigm to a universal paradigm.
You know, the black surfers had their surf lessons and everything. You would stay after, and then you would see people doing capoeira and drums playing. Somebody would be doing some spoken word or singing, and you see this Pan-African flag flying. And so I miss those days. I miss when that happened. You know, after a couple of years of moving here, just solidified where I was supposed to be. Being from Detroit, and I lived down the street from Motown, so, you know, a strong community, African-American community, BIPOC community of people together.
They talk about an island off the coast of West Africa where brothers were riding wooden planks, you know, for centuries, you know? And all of a sudden some white surfers discovered it, quote unquote discovered it, as opposed to maybe, you know, they were just part of a long train of surfers. The Europeans who now surf were part of a long dynasty of surfing. They came from Africa, through Melanesia, through the Polynesia, through the Wine Isles, came to the United States through Duke Kanemahoka, who brought it here. And Duke Kanemahoka is blacker than anybody in this room. Have you ever seen Duke Kanemahoka? Yeah, well, you know what I'm talking about? That's a brother. Broad nose. I mean, he was like the godfather, you know?
It's the reason why I've always tried to be inclusive, and I've surfed with lots and lots of groups over these past 9 years. You know, he had intention for Pan-African surfing, to see us come together and enjoy ourselves. And I think that's what, you know, Ebony Beach Club displays, and SoFly Surf School and other surf communities that have really just embraced this love.
Culturally, we were going through the whole Black Power movement, and I got snapped into that. So I started getting attention from my comrades in the Black Panther Party and other folks telling me, you know, that's not a good image for you to be a black revolutionary and a surfer. And I kind of rejected that phenomenon. And actually, you know, you'd be surprised sometimes black folks will, if you don't fall within a certain standard of prescribed behavior that's considered black, they'll put pressure on you and mess with you. And I'm not a gangster, I'm not a thug, so I wasn't like, I had other kind of credentials. My other credential was my love of black people and love of humanity. But, you know, actually as it progressed through now, throughout the movement, I'm known as the revolutionary black surfer, you know, because I'm still involved very deeply in the movement, and I do a lot of work with the liberation movements in Africa here, and that's pretty much what happened in Monterey. It was a challenging time, especially with my father, and the greasers, and the police, and a lack of resources. It was a challenging time. But if I go, let's say, certain areas of Watts where people, I don't know people, they don't know me, you know, and I pull up and do an appraisal, and these brothers be standing on the corner like, you ain't black, huh? You think you what? No, I ain't black, brother. I'm an African, you know? And they'll say, you know, and then they'll say like, you know, what's up with the surfers? He said, well, you know, brother, you know, slavery is a monster, man. Segregation is a monster. It kept us from our natural environment. You know, Africa's surrounded by the ocean, and, you know, anything to do with water, we mastered it all. In fact, we were the first sailors, you know what I mean? We were the first fishermen. In fact, all people on the planet Earth came from Africa. Even the blonde-haired, blue-eyed, genetically, the mitochondrial DNA testing is African. We came from the first human beings. They came from northwest Ethiopia, off our line, called Africanus. So we all African, and everybody on planet Earth came and migrated from Africa to populate the whole world. They happen to be in cold climates, so they lost their suntan. That's why they got white. But, you know, so all of a sudden, at a certain point, they're like, okay, brother, why don't you come over and talk to us, man? Pull out a split, we sit down and talk, and all of a sudden, I've educated these brothers out of this narrow box. They're surfing just a white boy sport, and they started surfing, and that our history began with slavery, as opposed to our history began when there was no such thing as slavery. We all lived in communalism, And our religion, our spirituality was one in harmony with the ocean, one in harmony with the jungle, one in harmony with the desert. And so with the ocean, anything you could do with the ocean, we knew how to do it. Because we got 4 million years living next to that ocean now. 4 million years, you can figure out getting a palm frond and riding away.
Great to have been, at those beginning stages and seeing the growth, seeing they started off as one surf group to now being 10 or 11 surf groups. It's great, and I love what people are creating, just reflecting on all the changes in this lifestyle and appreciating it, and just being observant and open to what's next. And so that's where I am right now, not trying to inundate anyone with what was, just informing people. I know a lot of my videos have always been very influential to bridging the Pan-Africanism, bridging people together where people are more inclusive with each other. So I thank Dedon, and in commemoration of Dedon and in honor of his life and the lives that he touched and affected in such a great positive way. I'd love to hear about your story with Dedon as well. I mean, he was just amazing, right? He was awesome. The interesting thing about when he did pass over, I remember when we had the ceremony at Santa Monica and at the Inkwell, and Grewall, his girlfriend, had his ashes, and she took him out to sea because we were to bury him. So we did this amazing ceremony when she was putting his ashes out, because what we did was, after you did a paddle out ceremony and hold hands in a circle and be grateful and thankful for the people who had passed over and came out there, and then the lifeguards spray the water hoses real high in the water, and we all lift up the water and just be excited about it and just scream to the top of our lungs. It's like just letting out that grief, that joy, that just thanking the universe for this thing called life, And so when we were paddling back in and taking away, I was paddling next to Tej, and she poured his ashes out, and his ashes stopped on her surfboard. And as we were paddling toward the shore, taking a wave in, I watched these ashes. It was like slowly but surely, as the wave was going, a little bit was distributed out to the sea, until that last wave where all of them went. It was like he was taking his last wave and returning to the water, returning to what he loved so much and what people known him for. It was a really powerful invocation, I don't know what you call it, that really had an effect on me about coming into the surf world and treating everyone with kindness and getting to know people and having that love and respect, and realizing that I don't have to act white. I can use my real voice. I can listen to the kind of music I listen to. I can be my authentic self. I don't have to play a role to be in the surf life. Surfing is an indigenous sport, and it was just one of those things that was just amazing to see and amazing to be a part of Dedon's life and to get to see him and get to know him before he passed over.
On those days, it was really, the water was very, very cold, and we didn't have very good wetsuits. We had to build a fire, and paddle off, surf for a half hour, come back, defrost, go back a half hour, come back and defrost, because once again, the wetsuit technology was very undeveloped at that period, And I only had a little top piece, a little tail below that I sewed up because it was all raggedy, because I had no money. And my father didn't support my surfing, so I had to pretty much guerrilla it. Even my first surfboard, if you set it in the water, 3/4 of it was underwater. It had so much laminate and resin and glass and so forth, just pretty much was half submerged, but I loved it. And no matter what, if I had to use a refrigerator, I just got hooked on surfing. So Monterey those days was pretty rough. You know, there were nights where I couldn't come in because greasers would be on the beach waiting to, have butterfly switchblades, slice me, throw rocks at me and so forth. So I'd have to wait until they leave. Sometimes it'd be dark to paddle in, hide my board and sneak on home, ride my bike home to the Navy base where my father lived, was where we lived at, So it was very challenging. Of course, when I went to Campbell University of San Diego with Jerry McCall, we had a little surf team. That was heaven. Because I was surfing like Ocean Beach and Sunset Cliffs and Point Loma, Mission Beach, going to Mexico a whole lot. And it was just a beautiful experience. And you paddle out and you look and all you see is just ocean upon ocean and no buildings, no fences. You feel free. You have a sense of freedom. There's no enclosure of your experience with the sky, with the blue sky and the ocean as you paddle out. When you turn around, and a lot of times in the morning on the West Coast here, we have dolphins coming up and down, and seagulls and pelicans. That just further adds to this notion of I'm in nature now, I'm in Mother Earth, I'm with the real God, and not the God of the US dollar, or the God of the gun, or the God of the weapons, And then you turn around, and when the waves are breaking, you catch a wave, you paddle to catch the wave. As you elevate yourself up, and you're riding that wave, it's like, I'm in harmony, I'm one. I'm integrated within the wave, within Mother Earth. And as you kind of carve, you don't fight the waves, you work with Mother Earth. You learn to be in harmony with the waves so you get the maximum ride, the longest ride. And I don't know, but when I ride a wave, it pulls so much energy out of me because it's such a total experience that when I turn around and paddle out, it's like a catharsis. I've cleansed all the nodules of stress from being an African man in America and being on a planet Earth with all the toxicity and all the artificial crass materialism, and just purges all those crystals of stress out of me. It's so healthy and reinvigorating. And actually, it's kept me optimistic about a better world. It's kept me enthused about young people. And people like Will, Rick, who live in the hood, who ain't running around trying to be European or deny their blackness, all contribute to setting a culture where surfing will be embraced, and it's getting more and more embraced by brothers and sisters in the United States, as well as, you go to Brazil, you go to Trinidad, Barbados, you see a surfer, but because the United States is the center of world imperialism, is the most advanced industrial, technological, media country in the world, whatever we do here has a rippling effect all over the world. So because we got so many down brothers from the hood who surf, cats my age or younger, it's becoming more and more acceptable. And so now they say, yeah, brother, right on. That's us.